ALCOSAN. Today is January 26th, 2023, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Craig, would you please conduct the roll call?
Darren Kelly,
Here.
Councilwoman Teresa Cal-Smith,
Here.
Harry Reedshaw,
Here.
Paul Klein,
Here.
Emily Kincaid,
Here.
Dr. Shayna Thorpe Gilliam, Sylvia Wilson.
Thank you. For everyone to benefit here, just to know, we've had an executive session held just prior to this board meeting. No votes were ever taken during executive session. We'll now move on to informational items, and could I ask if we had anyone signed up for public hearing? Any public speaking? No, ma'am. Okay, thank you so much. All right, item B is a report on the 2022 operating costs and revenues as compared to the budget, and which is according to Exhibit A. Ms. Fantoni, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the full year 2022. This is your cash basis financial statements. So we expended 92% of our budgeted expenditures, and we collected 110% of our budgeted revenues. That includes both your operating and some of your non-operating revenue. We did include $7 million of interest income that we hadn't budgeted, which is what's driving that 110% of that revenue number. I just want to add that the auditors will be in to conduct their financial statement audit in February. So we expect to come to the board in March with the full accrual financial statements and the audit report in March. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them. Questions?
Thank you. On item C, the 2023 capital budget status report. For this to Exhibit B, Ms. Penny.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is just kind of establishes our 2023 template for our capital budget report. Obviously, it's just the costs for January through the first month of the year. So it's just under $10 million. But what it does establish is our 2023 capital budget at about just under 203 million, and a total all-in budget of 210 million. And as you know from our budget presentations at the end of last year, it's a lot of construction anticipated this year. So if anybody had any questions on, the beginning of 2023, I'd be happy to answer them. But this is what we'll look at for the rest of the year.
Okay, I'm not seeing anyone with any questions or comments, so we're on. Item D, the report of actions by the executive director including approval of the construction change orders. This is in correspondence with Exhibit C. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, this is a change. Excuse me, a change for our up and coming environmental compliance facility. There was an expectation that caissons would be a particular length. Once we were moving forward, we were able to determine, I believe, through borings that we were off the mark. So we're between 8 and 20 feet in difference was required. This change order takes care of that difference.
Any questions, comments? All right, thank you. We'll move on now to 2 items. First, to approve the board minutes from December. Any questions, comments, changes, additions? Hearing none, but I have a motion to approve.
No move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item B is to consider authorizing the payment of invoices in excess of $20,100. This can be seen with Exhibit D. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, because you have the long swing between the December meeting to today. We got a pretty lengthy package, but it was provided with your preliminary agenda. If you had developed questions on specific invoices, we'll be pleased to respond to those.
Right, there and seeing no one asking anything, we'll move on to item C. Motion to reject all bills for contract 1773 with Sheridan Park Ecosystem Maintenance. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, there, as the board is aware, there are times that you need to rebid a contract for various reasons. Sometimes you miss the spec. Sometimes you do not have acceptable bids. This time around, you will be reauthorizing, you will be authorizing us to revise the spec and re-advertise this. That'll be coming up, I believe, in the next item. Right. So I'll talk about what it is specifically when you get there. Thank you.
So we need a motion to.
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Val.
Madam Chair, before we move on to the next page, we needed a motion for item B, the action item.
We didn't do that?
No, we reviewed it, but not.
Okay, so sorry. All right, we have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That has been approved. All right, we're moving to item D, the motion to award the following contracts. We have 3, 1777, 78, and 81. They correspond with exhibit E, F, and G. And Ms. Williams will be discussing these 3 items with us.
Madam Chair, we always place on your bid tab the previous bid amount, just so you have a frame of reference. And you can see that for the first 2, the hypo and caustic prices have increased significantly, while there is increase in pricing, which we did anticipate. There's also a good story to tell with at least one of these commodities, the hypo. I will say that for all 3, we are familiar with the low bidders. We would have no problem with recommending award, but I would ask the Director of Operations and Maintenance to speak specifically to the hypo issue. Douglas.
Thank you, Arletta. Madam Chair, members of the board. So just as a point of information, so the sodium hypochlorite that we get delivered here primarily used for disinfection. So the 200 million plus gallons per day before it goes out to the river, the final part of treatment is to chlorinate it for a bacteria perspective, and then to dechlorinate it to make sure that we don't put too much hypochlorite. The bad news is the bid tab itself. It is 60% above what is typically spent. In last year we spent about $1.3 million. So when you look at 60% over that amount, the increase is substantial. What you don't see is the reduction in usage that has occurred over the past 4 years. So in 2022, we utilized about 1 million gallons of hypochlorite. Going back to 2018, we were at about 1.6 million gallons per year. To that point, the reductions, we believe, will continue to some degree. One of the, I would call it, unintended consequences of the mess that Dr. Kennedy is making at the north end of the project was the demolition of very, very large storage tanks that we have down there. Those very large tanks were beneficial to have that much volume, but the longer the material sat in the tanks, it degraded over time. So our usage was increasing subsequent to that of the removal of those tanks, and smaller tanks that we turn the inventory over, it's allowed us to use less. We've also been more focused on, so the amount of per our permit, there is a recreational permit limit and there is a non-recreational permit limit for some of the pollutants that we put out into the river. Clearly, during the summer months, it's much more stringent, but during the non-summer months, there is the ability to utilize the permit to our benefit to not have to dose at such higher rates. So the combination of the demolition of tanks and the turnover of the product at a higher strength and the reductions during non-recreation season have allowed our usage to go down. While we expect that usage will still slightly continue to go down, it's helped to offset the increase in commodity costs. So while these contracts are year to year, and it's unlikely that this cost will remain, we hope it goes the opposite direction come this time next year. It's just, while the bad news is the costs have increased significantly, the good news over the past couple of years is that our usage has gone down measurably as well, about 40% less than it was several years ago.
And I appreciate that explanation, so I sure was going to ask you why. So thank you. Anyone else have any questions on any of these three items? Is it appropriate if we do all three at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I have a motion to approve. these three.
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motions passed.
And I'd like to say thank you for your work in Sheridan. Thank you for your work in Sheridan.
You're welcome.
All right, item E is a motion to authorize the preparation of specifications and advertisement for bids for the following contracts, which we see on exhibit H. It's two, it's the Sheridan Park ecosystem maintenance and also another for site demolition contract. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, going back to Sheridan Park that we just briefly mentioned, we have a requirement to maintain and provide invasive species containment on about 20 to 22 acres. Our Sheridan Park project took forever to come to conclusion. That we have this requirement is nominal compared to what was invested and the return on the investment. Again, we need to tweak the spec a bit to get a better bid response, but we're pretty comfortable that we'll be able to do that. The second contract for demolition is, as indicates, work external to the plant connected to the Ohio River Tunnel will require, as it has required us to purchase some properties. It also requires us to clear some things. That's what this provides for.
For the inquiring mind, what type of invasive species are we discussing that need to be controlled?
You know, we just really got to understand subaqueous. Please.
Thank you, Arlen, Madam Chair. There's poison hemlock, purple loosestrife, and there's a lot of Japanese dogweed that we have to address out there. So,
See that, that's good to know. I was thinking kind of critters. Kind of like they were microscopic, or maybe something more, you know, with something else. My Japanese knotweed was supposed to be beneficial because people could eat it in certain parts of their growth period. No?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's not
The
good.
poor one is.
All righty, thank you. Appreciate the explanations, folks. All right, could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do that one.
Thank
Second.
you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And I for myself, that has been approved. All right, moving on to item F. Motion to approve the following change orders that exceed $30,000, and we see these in exhibit I. And rather than go over each one individually, I'll let Ms. Williams go.
Madam Chair, I couldn't help the opportunity to tee up some aqueous. Look at me stumbling.
Aqueous.
You have heard so much about this project. You have learned to say survey is. You have also come to understand what a mud map is. Our Director of Regional Conveyance is going to give you a brief overview of this component of what has been a very tedious but necessary ongoing project. Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is our continuing issues and problems out at Sandcastle that we're working to resolve. Just to remind the board that the first two change orders were for bypass pumping, the initial excavation, culvert demolition, asbestos removal, and the concrete footer. What we have today is what the contractor needs to finish the work, actually the lining work of this section. He needs to furnish approximately 5 quick lock bands. These are 20-inch bands. They're about $8,500 a piece, plus $1,500 installation costs. So this will allow him to complete the lining between M42 and M42A, which is near the Glenwood Bridge. Just to update the board, the contractor it has the liner on site, and providing weather cooperates, he plans to do the final lining segment on Monday. So that's about a $50,000 item that you'll see on the change order. What you're also going to see is the concrete encasement and the piping that was included in the change order. This includes approximately 225 feet of PVC piping, about 90 cubic yards of concrete, rebar, several, you can see an excavator there, several excavators were used. They had to pump concrete in using concrete pumper trucks. So there was a significant amount of effort putting the concrete encasement in. Again, that was about 225 feet. Whoops. Here is the mud mat. What you don't see here is the 250 tons of stone that went underneath the mud mat. There was about 135 cubic yards of concrete used. Again, approximately 225 feet of repairs done. Concrete pumping and other miscellaneous materials were used in this, as well as equipment. One thing that we have to do to complete these repairs, there were sections of sewer that did not collapse. However, they are severely undermined. As you can see here, this concrete encasement is being undermined by the stream. We have to go in on both opposite sides of the repaired section. There's about 150 feet where the sewer is undermined. We've estimated there's about 90 cubic yards of concrete that's going to be repaired. The contractor's going to have to go in and underpin this concrete encasement where the pipe is located and conduct additional repairs. This hasn't been done yet, but we're asking for authorization to do the repair. And then obviously we want to make sure that we don't have to go back in here in 5, 10, or 15 years. We want to do this once, get out of there, and make sure that the repair is complete. A breakdown of the items. You can see here the quick lock repair sleeves for $50K. The mud mat, the new piping, the casement, the labor, the equipment, total of about $615K. And we're projecting about approximately $135,000 for additional pipe stabilization. So with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
It's good that you have a picture, so this will let you see how huge they are with the guys in there. It's amazing to see that, and you certainly understand why you want to shore up everything and keep things from having to go back in another 15 years. I think it's incredible work that's been done.
Just a point, we're still on schedule down there, correct?
We're scheduled to be done. What's included in this is an authorization to extend the date till April 15th. So we're working with the contractor to try to get, but the weather's providing some difficulty for us. So we're striving to move forward with, get it done in the next 3 months, but, yeah. Thank you. We're working on that.
Okay. Don't hear any more questions or comments, then our motion please. To approve.
Motion to approve all contracts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion is. Moving on to items G.
Hold
Oh,
on.
no, hold on.
Hold on. So you can approve the change order you just heard about.
Say it again.
You can approve the change order that you just heard about. We're gonna have to take them.
We had to do them individually.
Correct.
Mr. Reed, Shaw, she's not allowing me to make a motion.
Well,
All right, we'll go on to number 2.
okay, I'll
Okay,
draw that motion
thank
and
you.
make the motion to accept number 2, contract 1729E. Is that correct?
1726, number 3.
Yes, that's what I'm.
Yes.
That's it.
I'll second. Keep going.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and now we're moving on to,
Okay, the second change order to discuss, very brief, very straightforward, some electrical work that had to be accounted for initially. The specs indicated this cable wire should be in a conduit, had to go on a cable tray. There was some rerouting required. Hit it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
all in favor?
Motion approved.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next.
The third change order is another substantial change order that related to the East Head Works that has multiple components that I've asked the Director of Engineering and Construction to provide an explanation for. Kim.
Thank you, Arletta. This change order is for the East Headworks project that we see when you come down to these board meetings in person, and this is for the general contract associated with the East Headworks. So it is comprised of 7 individual proposed change orders that we've been negotiating. Some of them we've been working with the contractor on for over a year now, or at least a year. So there are 3 there are 4 of them that are smaller miscellaneous components that add up to about $120,000. The first one is an additional drain manhole. There was some piping that was discovered after some excavation, so we had to add a manhole. The second was for removal and proper disposal of some asbestos line pipe. We didn't know it was asbestos line until we got down there and were able to observe it. The third one was to add an expansion joint and associated support for a 14-inch process air pipe so that it is able to deal with changes in temperature appropriately. And then the third of the miscellaneous ones was a cost to increase some sample pumps and the associated piping. So like I said, those are the 4 of the 7 that were smaller. So there are 3 that we've been working pretty hard to negotiate and bring them to the board. The first is the need for some additional slab thickness. There were 1,700 auger cast piles on this project, and those piles were there's going to be a building. That building is going to have bar screens, and then there are tanks that are going to have the grit tanks. That across both of those are 1,700 auger cast piles. So there is a requirement to have a 3-inch embedment into those piles. And there was some confusion on both ends for that embedment. And some of those auger cast piles were too deep. So when they poured the slab, they didn't have that 3-inch embedment, and that's our code. So the cheapest and most straightforward solution was just to add 3 inches to the depth of the slab across the entire site. So that's what this cost is. It was, I can tell you, it was heavily negotiated, and this, other than losing schedule, pulling out piles and having a more complex solution, this allowed us to keep our project schedule, increase that 3-inch depth to the project slab, and keep moving. The next one was, so there was a steam trench that was discovered after we excavated an area for the east primary conduit. This is the major conduit that's going to come down the roadway and feed the new East Headworks. It's 12 feet diameter. It's been very disruptive. It's closed down one of our major roadways. Well, in any case, we had to work around that steam trench and then relocate it above the primary, east primary conduit. So a lot of that had to actually be hand dug, because they couldn't disturb or damage any of those utilities. So this is the cost for this PCO is associated with the steam trench impact and the rerouting that they had to do in order to keep that moving. And then the seventh portion, the seventh and last portion of this change order is cost for soil stabilization. So so this is pre-auger cast piles, when they brought the auger cast pile equipment out to kind of get the site ready, the equipment was sinking into the soils. It was a poor condition. And they wouldn't have been able to proceed with the work. So the general contractor stabilized the subgrade with lime and cement. I don't know if you guys were here for the lime situation, but there's some lime all over the place. So that was to stabilize the subgrade, and it allowed the equipment to be more safely enter the site in order to install the 1,700 auger cast piles that we needed. This cost is only for the direct costs associated with the equipment rental, lime, cement, those things of that nature. We are still negotiating indirect costs and additional days. We haven't been able to come to terms with that one yet. So we're probably going to talk about soil stabilization again, but this one at least pays their direct costs associated with the work in order to stabilize the soil. And this is probably one of the ones that has been going on the longest. And then my last and final slide just shows the improvement to the site after the soil was stabilized and they were able to proceed with the work with the installation of the piles. So it did make a big difference, but we had to address it for it to be a safe work environment.
Any questions? Motion to approve.
Moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on.
The final change order is for the parking garage, which is beautiful. This is specific to the plumbing component of that facility. And this is just addresses an extension of the schedule that was necessitated by some delays on the part of the general.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, I can move on to G and H. These items were considered by the Professional Services Committee, which was held on January 12th. The first being a motion to approve service authorization for professional consultants or DLZ. Will work with the Allegheny River Tunnel Near Surface Facilities Package 6.
Madam Chair, the board awarded the contract to DLC in December, authorized us to negotiate. We've brought back a fee, which is a good fee. I've asked the Director of Regional Conveyance, Mike, to give just a little overview. It's an important project and the timing of it is key to relationship building and moving the clean water plant forward. Like,
Thank you, Arletta. This project is located up in Sharpsburg and Aspinwall. It's part of the Allegheny River Tunnel. It's a near surface package, but it's not going to be part of the actual Allegheny River Tunnel package. It's being advanced primarily for the purpose of coordination with the development that is occurring up there. As you're aware, there's Allegheny Shores has purchased that property and they're proposing development. They've gotten some recent awards to advance some of the initial grading and site preparation of that. So we want to keep pace with the development. We don't want to have them put buildings up and trails and so forth, such that we have to go in, tear things up after it's put in. And so that's why we're advancing this particular contract, this particular design. This package involves about 9,000 feet of sewer, so it's a pretty substantial consolidation sewer package. So we've gone through the negotiation and we recommend award.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to item H, motion for modification of service authorization for Grant Thornton for an amount not to exceed $103,000 to provide additional services regarding the JD Edwards system upgrade that we've been hearing about, and hoping to get up and moving really.
yes, ma'am. As the board knows, we are upgrading our financial accounting system, our general ledger system that has been in place since 1994. Grant Thornton is providing good service. We need some additional work. That's it.
Long time. Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item I, motion to adopt resolution 2023-0101, authorizing the submission of an application for an H2O program, Pennsylvania program grant. Ms. Williams.
Item I and J are authorizing us to submit applications to the same agency, the CFA Commonwealth Financing Authority, to gain access to American Rescue Plan fund that, as you can see, are significant. They will definitely help with two key projects. The process requires that you take action to allow us to submit. Very straightforward. We hope that the next time we come to talk to you about this, we're telling you we got the money.
I sure hope that we do, because we don't have a lot of opportunity to get grants of
This
this
is true.
size. So I certainly hope this works.
Motion to submit.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we did put I and J together.
Well, we should split those ones up. Resolution
We
should
should.
be done individually.
Resolutions individual. All right, that was just for I, folks. Oh, that attorney. got me.
I'm glad you guys chose. It makes me feel better. I've been here before, remember?
Okay, J is a similar resolution, also hoping to put in a grant that we really need and we hope we receive.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I can hear everybody.
Aye.
I know, I'm
Get
listening.
you.
All right. It's, you know, I listen.
She's just like
But
a
somebody-
teacher.
Hear enough. I'm listening for this. I'm listening. That's why I had to explain once before that I never asked for the notes, because we already had all the ayes covered, so, you know. All right, item K is a motion to adopt resolution 2023-0103, authorizing the purchase of 47 tax bundles situated in the 23rd Ward from Buncher Company. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, this item and item L, and when I explain them at the same time, it's just for brevity. Okay, have to vote on them together. They are both related to property acquisition that's necessary for furthering implementation of the clean water plan, which keeps us in compliance with the federal consent decree.
Certainly want to stay in compliance.
Yes, we do.
Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
thank you. It's approved. Item L is a motion.
I figured I would wait and confirm that you guys would hear me.
This is a payment of $75,000 to the Buncher Company in connection with four parcels, which Ms. Williams just explained to us, but I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion to approve.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, it's approved. Item M is a motion to authorize payment of $193,905 to Condemnee CES Acquisition LLC. Representing the appraised value of certain personal property not retained by that condemnee. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, in the process of acquiring property, there are times that you run across moments where, as it says, there's personal property that needs to be accounted for. This is, I believe this actually wraps up Cardello completely, with we've been working through for several months.
Motion to approve. There's no questions or comments.
So
Motion
moved.
to second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item N is a motion to approve an agreement with the Borough of McKees Rocks regarding the borough's timely consideration of Act 537. Ms. Williams.
Mr. Solicitor.
Sure. Members of the board, this is a matter that involves the Act 537 plan amendments that have been approved by 8 municipalities, in which we have parts of the Clean Water Plan impacting McKees Roxborough. It does have litigation that is pending in the federal court. As an ancillary part of that, we were able to negotiate an agreement over the last month regarding their approval by the deadline set by DEP of the Act 537 plan amendment, provided that there are changes made to the real estate assessments, which are currently exempt, but will be becoming taxable as part of this agreement. It has been approved by the Borough of McKees Roxborough Council already. We'd be asking for your vote this evening for this part of this litigation. We are still working and will not comment further on the pending federal litigation, but this is the step in the right direction.
I just want to say thank you. We know that you all worked around the holidays all the way up to Christmas Eve. We appreciate it, something we haven't forgotten. So thank you so much to everyone for working so hard on that. Madam Chair, motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's approved. All right, the next item on the agenda is the election of officers for 2023. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Max Johnson.
Thank you very much. Yes, in accordance with our bylaws and the Municipalities Authorities Act, we are to reorganize every January meeting. Our typical process is to move a slate of candidates rather than doing individual nominations and appointments for the 4 or 5 positions that are set forth in our bylaws. I have been presented with a slate of Ms. Wilson for chair, Dr. Tharp Gilliam for vice chair, Mr. Harry Reedshaw for treasurer, Representative Kincaid for secretary, and Mr. Kelly for assistant secretary / assistant treasurer. I would need a motion for that slate, or If there is no motion and second, we will do these individually.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Properly moved by Mr. Klein, seconded by Councilmember Teresa Kale Smith. Any debate or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Motion carries. The slate is approved.
Congratulations.
Thank you for taking it on.
I did.
All right. Our next meeting will be February 23rd, and before we close this out, just ask if there's any possible new business. There is none. All right, thank you. Then it's been another wonderful meeting. We're doing a lot of great work over here. I appreciate so much, as I know the rest of the board does, all the hard work that's being done by everybody to try to make sure that we have the best possible clean water and environment in our county. So thank you all